Hey, Problem Stats kids, this is Dr. Callahan with Week 3 Friday. How are you guys doing? Go ahead and pause the video and answer the following 3 questions for your warm-up log. All right, let's go ahead and add your assignments for today. Okay, so with that said, let's go ahead and do that then. Let's go to Teams, Problem Stats. I'm going to go to Assignments and Create. So from here, our title for today is Week 3 Friday, ProbstatsSem Semester 2, and we are going to be talking about identifying type 1 and type 2 errors using a chart. Okay, so your instruction today is make sure you guys view the assignment, watch the video, and upload the assignment. On MS Team. There are 10 points affiliated with this, and there are 2 classes that's going to be doing this as well. So my 5th period and my 6th period class. And of course, it's due by 3 p.m. All right, you guys. So today we do have your guided notes that you're going to need. But in addition to that, you also will need to have your guided notes separate from this one. So let's go back over here to MS Teams. And so that way I can go ahead and attach it here. So if you go ahead and click on it, you should be able to see this. There we go. All right, and then I'm also gonna go ahead and post this on the other Problem Stats class, so all of you guys have it. Perfect, let's go ahead and continue with our lesson today, you guys. All right, so last time I saw you guys, you did have a little bit of textbook work. Your textbook work was supposed to be for number 26 to 30 even, and these are your answers. You are basically supposed to find the answers for the null hypothesis and also the alternative hypothesis. Keep in mind that the null hypothesis always include an equal sign, whereas the alternative hypothesis has no equal sign or does not equal. And then we also went over the objective number 1. So make sure you have these answers under objective number 1. And then of course, objective number 2 as well. All right, so with that said, let's go ahead and get started. Here we go. This is what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to talk about making a table to identify type 1 and type 2 errors using a chart method. You're going to finish objective number 3, and then we're going to continue on with null hypothesis. Your homework tonight is 32 to 36 evens, and it is on the Google Doc, so make sure you guys check that out. So with that said, let's go ahead and get started with this. So turn over to your page, to your guided notes on this. All right, using hypothesis. No matter which hypothesis represent the claim, always begin the hypothesis test assuming that the null hypothesis is going to be true. Now, at the end of the test, one of two decisions will be made. The first one could be you went ahead and reject the null hypothesis, or the second one is that you fail to reject the null hypothesis. Those are the only two decisions, and it's an or, so it can't be both. Because your decision is based on sample, there is a possibility of making some wrong decisions, and this is where the table comes in for type 1 and type 2 errors. Now, type 1 error occurs when if the null hypothesis is rejected when it is actually true, okay, because you assumed it was false, but really it is true. And it seems like part of the text got cut off here, so let me go ahead and very quickly fix that so we don't have this issue later on. So stand by just for a second. Let me just move this up a little bit. Okay, I think that's good now. Okay, and a type 2 errors occurs if the null hypothesis is not rejected, keyword not, when it is actually false. Okay, so type 2 error, type 1 error. Now let's take a look at some examples so we can determine that. All right, when we can relate these type of testing and error in the legal system. And so this is the part that becomes a little bit iffy because this matters. It's, you know, people's livelihood and their freedom is at play. So this is important that you do not make type 1, type 2 errors. So in a verdict where you're on trial for a crime that you did or did not do, you can have one of two things. You can either have a guilty or not guilty verdict. So if you're not guilty, that means you are, or I'm sorry, if you are guilty, that means you're not innocent. Versus not guilty, which means you are innocent. Okay. Now, so here's the truth about the defendant. If the jury found that you are actually, let's say if you are the defendant and you are actually innocent of a crime that they determined that you committed, but then the verdict or the jury found that you are not guilty. Well, that makes sense because if you're innocent and they say you're not guilty, then that means justice was served. So everybody is good. It's balanced, okay? But on the opposite of that, if you are indeed innocent, but then for some reason the jury found you guilty, that is a type 1 error. Okay, that is a type 1 error. So you're found guilty when in fact you are innocent. Now, on the other hand, let's talk about type 2 error. If you are indeed guilty, okay, but then for some reason the jury found you not guilty, so you actually just got away with your crime, that is considered to be a type 2 error. On the other hand, if you did commit the crime and they did find you guilty, then obviously it's justice and it's balance. So it's justice served. So those are the two different types of errors. Let's go ahead and apply this to an actual example. So here we go. Okay, so when it comes to chicken, how many people eat chicken at least once a week? I know I probably eat it maybe twice a week. The average American consumes a whopping 201 pounds of chicken meat annually. Unsurprisingly, there's a high demand for poultry, which is chicken, and an estimated 8 billion chickens are consumed over the course of a year in the US. So this actually is hard to do because when you eat more chicken, you have a higher chance of getting salmonella infection. The CDC estimates salmonella bacteria cause about 1.35 million infections 26,500 hospitalizations and 420 deaths in the US each year. And of course, if you do get ill from salmonella from consuming chicken that's improperly cooked or improperly handled, you can have a vast amount of different type of symptoms. So just keep that in mind. All right, so let's talk about this. So now that you saw the background of this, the USDA limit for salmonella contamination from chicken is 20%. A meat inspector reported that the chicken produced by a company exceeded the USDA limit, which means they have a really dirty facility. You perform a hypothesis test to determine whether the meat inspector's claim is true. When will a type 1 or type 2 error occur? Which is more serious? So we need to draw a table, and then we need to go ahead and write down the null hypothesis and also the alternative hypothesis, okay? So my null hypothesis is going to say, the meat inspector report that the chicken produced by a company exceeds that, okay? So obviously from the standpoint of the company, I'm gonna say, oh, hold on a second, absolutely not. The average of contaminants is going to be seriously less than or equal to 20% or less than or equal to 0.20. People are not getting sick more than 20% of the time. Well, as the person going in there and inspecting that, I'm like, you know what? I don't think I agree with you. I think it's more than 20%. I think people are getting more sick than what you're claiming to be, because of course you want to say less than 20% because you don't want people to stop buying the chicken from your facilities, even though you really should spend more time cleaning the facilities up to make it so less people are getting sick. So now let's get the test. Okay, so first I'm going to do, and let's say this is less than or equal to 20%, greater than 20%. Then here it is going to be less than or equal to 20%, greater than 20%. Okay. So when I go ahead and test this, if the first one actually does match, okay, because this is what the inspector is claiming. This is what the facility is actually determining. If they're both less than 0.20, less than 20%, and they do match, then that's a good thing, because that means the facility is being truthful and the test checks out and people are getting sick less than 20% of the time, which is good. Now, on the other hand, if the facility is actually tested for more than 20% of the time, and the test shows that, actually I have this backwards, sorry, I'm gonna change this a little bit. So this is the inspector. Actually, no, I'm sorry, that is correct. Facility, inspector. Okay, so if the facility says that, you know what, you're right, we actually do have more than 20% of people getting sick from our chicken, but then the inspector goes in and go, you know what, actually it is less than 20%, then that is a good thing. That means the facility is saying that we need to do better, but then the inspector is like, you know what, you're actually doing okay, because it's actually found that people less than 20% are getting sick. So you guys are taking the necessary precautions. Now, on the other hand, and this right here is going to be a type 1 error. Okay, because the facility is saying that we are getting more people sick, more than 20%, but then for some reason, when the inspector did his test, he's actually, you know what, you're actually wrong. So we don't need to recall the chicken, everything is good. Now, on the other hand, if the facility says, no, we're not getting more than 20% people sick, but then when the inspector comes in and said, you know what, I found that you are indeed getting more than 20% of people sick, this is really bad, okay? This is really bad because what generally happens and what it's saying is that more people are getting sick. So therefore, more people are going to die. So you will really have to recall the chicken, because you're claiming that people are getting less than 20% of the people sick, but in fact, when I tested it, it's actually more than 20%. Now, on the other hand, if the facility is being truthful and saying, yes, we're getting more than 20% of people sick, and if I go in and test it and say, yep, you are actually getting more than 20% people sick, then what ends up here is that it's just going to be a bad chicken, and they will have to destroy it. But the good thing is, at least they are honest. Okay, so give them points for being ethical and upfront. Okay, how many of you guys have a bucket list? What is going to be on your bucket list? So in the sport of skydiving, in 2018, they have recorded that 13 people have died because of skydiving. Roughly 3.3 million people jumps, and the lowest number in the sport's history. That's one person who will die per 250,000 people, which is not too bad. I think there's a higher chance of you getting in a car accident than jumping out of an airplane. So let's go ahead and take a look at this. Okay, objective number 3 on page 18. Go ahead and turn over to that, please. Okay, it says a company specializing in parachute assembly states that its main parachute failure rate is not more than 1%. Basically, it's a company who's making parachutes, and they're saying, like, look, when you jump out of an airplane, we do not have any problems with this parachute. It's less than 1% chance that there's might be something that goes wrong with it, which personally I don't like that, because I'm like, out of 100 people, I might be that one person that when I jump out of an airplane, the chute is just not going to work properly, and I have a big problem with that. You perform a hypothesis test to determine whether the company's claim is false. When will a type 1 or type 2 error occur? All right, so your null hypothesis is I'm going to be the company and say, look, it's in everybody's best interest that it's going to be less than 0.01 or less than 1% where the parachute will have problems. Okay. Now my alternative hypothesis is, it's actually greater than 1% that there is a problem with a parachute when it is used. So then on top is Dr. Callahan, the inspector, testing the claim. On the left side is going to be the parachute company making the claim. Okay, so I'm going to say less than 0.01, greater than 0.01. Here it's less than 0.01, greater than 0.01. Okay, so let's take a look at the first scenario. If the company says it's less than 1% and I did the test and indeed they are less than 1%, that means my test matched to the claim what the company said, and therefore everybody's happy because your parachute is less than 1% of problems. I tested it, it is correct, your advertisement is right, and we will go our separate ways. That means it's good. On the other hand, if I inspected it and if the company says it's less than 1%, but when I inspected it and it's actually greater than 1%, that means there are more people actually dying or becoming pancakes when they use the parachute. And this is a type 2 error, which is not good, because now you will have a lawsuit on your hand because you're lying to the people when you're selling the parachutes and putting it on the market. On the other hand, if the parachute company says, you know what, we do have more than 1% of our parachutes having problems, but then when I tested it and it's actually less than 1%, then that's good. It's not a problem because it is a type 1 error. And really, you could either fix it or destroy the parachutes, and that's fine because the company is saying that there's more than 1%, and I found it, and guess what? It was good news for the company because it was less than 1%. On the other hand, if the company says it's greater than 1%, and I indeed found that it was more than 1% of a problem, then that's fine. Then you just need to change your marketing claim from 1% to 2%. And that way you're not being a liar, you're actually being truthful. Type 2 terror is the worst ones because you will get lawsuits. All right, you guys, now that we have done this, I am going to go ahead and have you guys practice with this on your own. So first thing, I want you to give me 3 things that you learned, 2 ways that you contributed, 1 question you still have, and tell me your effort. After that, I want you to practice doing this. A person goes on trial for murder, and then you basically fill out the table here. A person is tested for cancer. Then give me what you think goes in here with type 1, type 2 errors. And then after that, I want you guys to go to this link right here. Take the college readiness question. It's 25 questions. And then afterwards, are you ready? What do you still need to prepare for? How confident are you about attending college? And do you feel that Hug High School adequately prepared you for college and the next step in life? All right, you guys, as always, stay safe and healthy. Do your homework on week 3 Friday's Google Doc, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care.